The crystal chandelier above my head cost more than most people earn in a year. I remember because I was the one who wrote the check. But as I stood there in my own foyer, invisible in my own home, watching my daughter dismiss me like hired help, I realized something profound. You can fund someone's entire existence and still mean nothing to them. Let me back up. My name is Catherine Hayes, and this is the story of how my daughter taught me that love without respect is just expensive sentiment. It was a Thursday evening in March when everything shattered. I just returned from the farmer's market, my arms full of fresh ingredients for the dinner I'd planned. Organic vegetables, heritage tomatoes, the good olive oil from that little shop on Chestnut Street. I was thinking about the mushroom risotto I'd make, the one my late husband used to love, the one our daughter Olivia had requested just last week. The voices drifted from the living room before I even opened the door. Sophisticated laughter, the kind that comes with expensive wine and even more expensive educations. Olivia was entertaining again. Her future in-laws, the Ashford Clarks from Connecticut, were visiting for the first time. I should have known something was wrong when she asked me to stay upstairs during their arrival. "Mom, just give us some space to settle in first, okay? These people are important." Important. The word had started appearing more and more in Olivia's vocabulary, usually followed by requests for me to make myself scarce. But this was my house. The house I'd bought in 1989, with money I'd earned running Hayes Marketing Solutions from a spare bedroom. The house where I'd raised Olivia alone after Marcus died, working 18-hour days to build an empire while still making it to every piano recital, every parent-teacher conference, every midnight bout of flu. So I walked into my living room, my arms full of groceries, ready to be the gracious host I'd always been. That's when I heard it. "So, Olivia, darling, you mentioned your mother lives here too?" Victoria Ashford Clark's voice was polished, curious. "We'd love to meet her." I was about to announce myself when my daughter spoke. The words came out smooth, practiced, like she'd been preparing for this moment. "Oh, Catherine? She's basically the property manager. Lives here in exchange for handling the household operations, cooking, maintenance, that sort of thing." The tomatoes slipped from my hands. 2, 3. They hit the marble floor I'd installed, splitting open, red spreading across white stone like blood. Everyone turned. Olivia's face went pale. Victoria and Edmund Ashford Clark, impeccably dressed and clearly uncomfortable, stood near my fireplace. Their son Preston, Olivia's fiancé, studied his shoes like they held the secrets of the universe. And my daughter, my Olivia, my baby girl who I'd carried for 9 months, who I'd nursed through pneumonia at age 7, who I'd put through Yale and then Columbia Business School, just stared at me, waiting for me to disappear. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community, so we can bring more truthful stories for you. I didn't disappear. Instead, I set down my remaining groceries very carefully on the entry table. I looked at Victoria Ashford Clark and said, "I'm Catherine Hayes. I own this house. I've owned it for 35 years, and I'm Olivia's mother." The silence was exquisite, painful, beautiful in its completeness. Then I walked upstairs to my bedroom, closed the door, and made 4 calls that would change everything. But to understand why I did what I did, you need to know how we got here. How a girl who once held my hand crossing the street became a woman who could erase me from her own story. How I went from being her whole world to being nothing more than an inconvenience in a house I built from nothing. This is how I taught my daughter what value really means. I wasn't always invisible. There was a time when Olivia Hayes looked at me like I was magic. When she was 6 years old, she'd sit in my office at Hayes Marketing Solutions, coloring while I worked late. And every time I'd finish a client call, she'd look up with those huge green eyes and say, "Mommy, you're so smart, you can do anything." Hayes Marketing Solutions. God, I loved that company. Marcus and I started it in 1985 with $15,000 in savings and a dream that was probably too ambitious for two kids from working-class Philadelphia. But we made it work. Marcus handled creative, I handled strategy and accounts. We were good, really good. By 1988, we had 12 employees and offices in Manhattan and Boston. We handled campaigns for Fortune 500 companies, tech startups, everyone. Our specialty was making the complex accessible, taking ideas that seemed impossible to explain and making them sing. When Olivia was born in 1990, I brought her to the office in a carrier and set her up in my corner office. She grew up surrounded by the sound of keyboards clicking, phones ringing, creative teams brainstorming. She learned to read by looking at our campaign posters. She learned math by helping me calculate budgets. "You're raising her in an office," my mother said once, disapproving. "That's no childhood." But Olivia never complained. She loved it. She'd help my assistant sort files. She'd sit in on brainstorming sessions and offer ideas that were surprisingly insightful for a 7-year-old. Our clients adored her. She was the princess of Hayes marketing, and everyone treated her accordingly. Then Marcus died. Aneurysm, just like that. He was presenting to a client in Chicago, mid-sentence about brand positioning. And then he was gone. He was 42 years old. Olivia was 8, old enough to understand death, but too young to process losing her father. I was 35, suddenly a widow running a multi-million-dollar company and raising a daughter alone. I could have sold the business. Several competitors made offers, good offers, but Hayes Marketing was all I had left of Marcus. His ideas were still in our campaigns. His handwriting was still on whiteboard notes in the conference room. His coffee mug still sat on the shelf in my office. So I kept going. I worked harder. I hired more people to fill the gaps Marcus left. I built the company bigger, stronger, more successful. By 2010, Hayes Marketing Solutions was worth $23 million. 20 years of building, of sacrifice, of missing school plays because I had client emergencies, of bringing work home every weekend, all converted into a number on a check. Olivia was 20, finishing her junior year at Yale. She was thrilled. "Mom, this is amazing. You can finally relax. You've earned it." I thought maybe she was right. I thought maybe I could travel, volunteer, finally read all those books I'd been collecting. I thought maybe Olivia and I could spend more time together, rebuild the closeness we'd lost during her teenage years, when she'd grown resentful of my long hours. I kept the house in Pacific Heights, the one I bought in 1989 for $400,000. It was worth $4.2 million now. I kept my investments, my retirement accounts. We were set. Olivia graduated from Yale in 2011 and went straight to Columbia for her MBA. I was so proud. My daughter, following in my footsteps, building her own career in business. We talked every week. She'd tell me about her classes, her internships, her dreams of working in private equity or venture capital. When she graduated in 2013, she moved back to San Francisco. "Just temporarily," she said, "until I find the right position and get my own place." I was delighted. My daughter, home again. We could be close again, like we used to be. That was 11 years ago. Olivia never left. At first, it was wonderful. We'd have coffee together in the mornings. She'd tell me about her job search, the companies she was interviewing with. I'd offer advice, make introductions to my old network. We'd cook dinner together, watch movies, talk late into the night. Then Olivia landed a job at Mercer Capital Partners, a prestigious investment firm. Starting salary, $220,000. I took her out to celebrate at the city's best restaurant. I was so proud I could have burst. That's when things started changing. Subtle at first. She'd come home later and later. She'd take calls in her room with the door closed. She started dressing differently, talking differently, carrying herself differently. "It's just professional development, Mom," she'd say when I'd comment on how formal she'd become. "This is how people operate at my level." Her level. Like we weren't on the same level anymore. One Sunday in late 2014, Olivia came to me with a proposal. We were in the living room, the autumn light streaming through the windows I'd had custom made in 1992. She had a folder of documents, professionally prepared. Mom, I've been thinking about the house. With property values in Pacific Heights being what they are, we should really consider some strategic renovations. Update the spaces, modernize the systems. Could increase the value by 40, maybe 50%. We? I asked carefully. Well, yes. I mean, I live here. You live here. It's our home, isn't it? And think of it as an investment. When you eventually downsize, the equity would be substantially better. When I eventually died, she meant. She was already planning what to do with my house after I was gone. What kind of renovations are we talking about? She'd been waiting for this. I've been working with a designer. Someone from the firm knows. Just updating the kitchen, the bathrooms, the living spaces, making everything more contemporary, more aligned with current aesthetics. How much? To do it properly, we're looking at around $550,000. My inheritance money. A quarter of what I'd gotten from selling my life's work. That's substantial, Olivia. It's an investment, Mom. And honestly, when I have colleagues over, I'd hate for them to see such outdated spaces. These people notice details. There it was, the first seed of shame. The first hint that the way I lived, the home I'd carefully built and maintained for decades, wasn't good enough for the new world my daughter inhabited. I should have said no. Should have told her to renovate her own house when she got one. But she was looking at me with those green eyes, the same eyes that used to light up when I'd read her bedtime stories, and I couldn't bear to disappoint her. So I said yes. The renovations took 8 months and cost $635,000. Olivia managed everything. The Italian marble, the sub-zero appliances that cost more than I used to make in 3 months at the company, the heated floors, the smart home technology, the custom everything. Trust me, Mom, I know what creates value. And it did create value. It looked like something from Architectural Digest. Sleek, modern, expensive, impressive. It just didn't look like mine anymore. Gone was the sunny yellow kitchen, where Olivia used to help me bake cookies. Gone was the bathroom, with the vintage fixtures Marcus and I had restored ourselves. Gone were the built-in bookshelves, where we displayed Olivia's childhood art projects. Beautiful. Cold, designed to impress rather than to live in. What do you think? Olivia asked when it was finished. It's beautiful, I said, and it was. Finally looks like a place I can bring people to, she said. Not thank you, Mom. Not I appreciate you investing over $500,000 in our home. Just satisfaction that she'd successfully erased the traces of her childhood, her father, her history. But the renovation was only the beginning. Over the next few years, I watched my daughter transform into someone I barely recognized. Someone I wasn't sure I liked. It started with her name. Business cards appeared one day with a new signature. Oh, Alexandra Hayes. Alexandra's my middle name, she explained when I asked. More memorable in business circles. What was wrong with Olivia? Nothing, Mom. Olivia Hayes just sounds too casual. Oh, Alexandra Hayes sounds like someone who manages $100 million deals. Like someone who manages, not like someone whose mother named her after her grandmother, my sweet Olivia, who died the year before my daughter was born. Next came the photographs. I came home from a doctor's appointment to find Olivia and her assistant rearranging the living room. Boxes sat on the floor, filled with frames. Spring cleaning, Olivia said brightly. The space needs to feel more curated. I looked in the boxes. Our family photos. Marcus and me at our company's 10th anniversary party. Olivia's baby pictures. Thanksgivings with my mother before she passed. The day we closed our biggest client. Marcus and me standing in front of Hayes Marketing Solutions on opening day, young, and hopeful and so in love. Where are these going? I thought we could store them in the attic. These new pieces I sourced will photograph better for Instagram. Photograph better. My family's history, boxed up because it didn't fit my daughter's social media aesthetic. Olivia, these are our memories. And you can still look at them whenever you want. They'll just be in storage instead of on display. The new art I found will really elevate the space. 34 years of history, hidden away because they didn't match the image my daughter wanted to project to strangers on the internet. Should have said, these are my walls, and my family's photos stay. But some part of me wondered if she was right. Maybe our old photos did look shabby next to the curated perfection her colleagues posted online. So I let her pack them away. And with each box, I felt myself disappearing a little more. December 2019, a dinner party. Olivia had invited 12 people from Mercer Capital Partners. Just a small gathering, she said. Nothing elaborate. Except it was elaborate. Catered food from some molecular gastronomy place that charged $75 for an appetizer the size of a quarter. Wine that cost more per bottle than I used to pay my employees per day. Everyone dressed like they were attending a state dinner. I'd spent the afternoon preparing my signature dish, thinking I'd contribute something personal. Coq au vin. Marcus's favorite. The recipe I'd perfected over 20 years. But when I started setting up in the kitchen, Olivia stopped me. Mom, we have the catering handled. I thought it would be nice to add something homemade. That's sweet, but really the caterers are professionals. Just let them handle the food tonight. So I hid my coq au vin in the back of the refrigerator and tried to be helpful in other ways. I made sure the wine was properly chilled. I checked that the caterers had everything they needed. I stayed in the background, the way invisible people should. I was refreshing ice in the bar area when Olivia's managing partner, a silver-haired man named Richard, gestured toward me and asked, "And who is this lovely woman helping tonight?" This was Olivia's moment. Her chance to say, "This is my mother. She built a multi-million-dollar company from scratch. She raised me alone after my father died. She's brilliant and strong, and the reason I am who I am today." Instead, my daughter looked at her boss and said, "Oh, that's Catherine. She manages the household operations for me." Manages the household operations. Not my mother. Not the woman who owns this house. Not even my mom helps me out. Just Catherine, household manager. I finished with the ice, smiled politely, and excused myself to the kitchen. Then I stood at the sink. In the kitchen I paid $635,000 to renovate. And I understood, with perfect clarity. My daughter was ashamed of me. Not theoretically, actually, genuinely ashamed. Ashamed that her mother had worked in marketing instead of finance. Ashamed that I'd built my success in the 90s instead of the 2020s. Ashamed that I represented a world she was desperate to leave behind. I didn't cry. I was too stunned for tears. I just listened through the doorway as they discussed their winter homes in Aspen, their art collections, their children's prep schools, their opinions on which private jets had the best amenities. And I realized I had funded my own erasure. The social media escalation started in early 2020. Olivia had always been on Instagram, but suddenly she was treating it like a second job. Multiple posts per day, all carefully staged, all featuring my house. Morning light in our kitchen, hashtag San Francisco living, hashtag modern home, hashtag blessed. Sunday brunch at home, hashtag weekend vibes, hashtag living my best life. Grateful for this beautiful space, hashtag home goals, hashtag interior design, hashtag SF luxury. Every post got thousands of likes, hundreds of comments. "Your house is incredible. I'm obsessed with your aesthetic. You have my dream life." And Olivia would respond, "Thank you. We worked so hard to create this space." We, as in her and her designer. Never mentioning that the house belonged to a 64-year-old woman who'd bought it with marketing money in 1989. Never mentioning Who paid for the renovations? Never mentioning me at all. I was a ghost in my own home, invisible except when my daughter needed something. February 14th, 2024. The Ashford Clarks were coming to visit for the first time. I was actually excited. Finally, a chance to meet Preston's family, to show them real hospitality, to be acknowledged as Olivia's mother. I spent 2 days preparing a feast, everything from scratch, the way I'd learned from my grandmother. Herb-crusted rack of lamb, roasted root vegetables with honey and thyme, potato gratin with Gruyere, fresh-baked bread, chocolate soufflés for dessert. 12 hours of work, every dish perfect. The house smelled like a French country kitchen, warm, inviting, full of love. At 5 o'clock, I started setting the table. The Bernardo china Marcus's mother had left me. Candles. Crystal. Olivia walked in at 5:15. Mom, what are you doing? Setting the table for dinner. For the Ashford Clarks. We're going to Atelier Rousseau. I made reservations 6 weeks ago. I stared at her. What? But I've been cooking all day. I know, and that's really thoughtful, Mom. But this is important. The Ashford Clarks are accustomed to a certain standard. We can eat your food later this week. She said it kindly, like she was being considerate, like she was doing me a favor. Olivia, I made enough for 8 people. We'll have it for lunches or something. Then she left to change for dinner at a restaurant where the tasting menu cost $550 per person, not including wine, while my lamb sat cooling in the oven. I found all the containers in the trash 4 days later, every single one, unopened. There was a note on top in Olivia's handwriting, too heavy for my current meal plan. Oh, that was the day I stopped cooking. The Ashford Clarks' second visit, Olivia made it clear from the start that I wasn't included. Mom, this is really more of a business dinner. Preston's father has connections that could be valuable for my career trajectory. Business dinner on a Saturday night with your boyfriend's parents? Fiancé's parents. And yes, it's complicated. It would just be better if it was the 4 of us. More intimate. I understand. And I did. I understood perfectly. There's leftover Thai food in the fridge from yesterday. You can just heat that up. Leftover Thai food, while my daughter took her future in-laws to Boulevard, where dinner for 4 would cost $2,000 before wine. I ate my pad thai alone in the kitchen I'd paid for, reading a book, listening to the house settle around me. They came back at 11. I heard the front door, heard voices echoing through the hallway. Oh my goodness, this place is even more stunning at night with all the architectural lighting. That was Victoria's voice, cultured, enthusiastic, impressed. I was rinsing my plate when they entered the kitchen. Olivia first, elegant in designer everything. Then Preston in his custom suit. Then Victoria and Edmund Ashford Clark, both radiating old money and older privilege. Edmund was exactly what you'd expect from Connecticut wealth. Tall, distinguished, wearing a blazer that probably cost more than my monthly expenses. Victoria matched him perfectly. Blonde, pearls, Hermes bag that I knew cost $30,000 because Olivia had tagged it in an Instagram post once. They were laughing about something from dinner. Some story about their yacht club in Newport. I tried to slip past them, give them space, but Victoria noticed me. Oh, hello. You must be Catherine. Olivia's mentioned you. At least she knew my name. Good evening, Mrs. Ashford Clark. I hope you enjoyed your dinner. It was absolutely divine. Your daughter has exquisite taste in restaurants. Your daughter. Finally, acknowledgement of our relationship. But then Edmund started looking around the kitchen with appreciation, running his hand over the marble I'd paid for, admiring the appliances I'd bought. This renovation is truly exceptional, Olivia. The craftsmanship is museum quality. Must have cost a fortune. Here it was, Olivia's moment to acknowledge what I'd done, to show a shred of gratitude or respect. Yes, we invested significantly in creating the right aesthetic, really transformed it from what it used to be. My $635,000 described as we. Victoria opened the wine fridge, looking for sparkling water. She found my homemade chicken pot pie from earlier in the week, the one I'd made for Sunday dinner that Olivia had been too busy to eat. "Oh my, someone's been cooking. This looks absolutely delicious." Before Olivia could stop me, I said, "I made that on Wednesday. It's an old family recipe, my grandmother's. Would you like me to heat some up for you?" I saw Olivia's jaw tighten, saw the warning flash in her eyes, but Victoria seemed genuinely interested. "Actually, that sounds wonderful. I've been wanting to learn more about traditional American home cooking." "Mom," Olivia's voice cut through the kitchen like ice, "I'm sure they're quite full." "Actually, I'd love just a small taste," Victoria said warmly. "She's being polite, Mom. You don't need to push food on everyone who walks through the door." The way she said it, like I was some overbearing housewife who couldn't read social cues, like I was embarrassing her again. I stopped, turned around, faced my daughter and her future in-laws in the kitchen I'd paid to create, standing on floors I'd installed, surrounded by appliances I'd bought. That's when Edmund asked the question that destroyed everything. "I'm sorry, but I'm a bit confused about the living situation here. Catherine, what exactly is your relationship to Olivia? Are you family, a business partner, or—" Long enough to hear the refrigerator hum. Long enough to hear my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. This was it. Olivia's moment. Her chance to say, "This is my mother." Her chance to say, "She owns this house." Her chance to say, "She sacrificed everything to give me the opportunities I have." Instead, my daughter looked Edmund Ashford Clark directly in his aristocratic face and said, "Catherine lives here, but honestly, she's basically just the housekeeper. Free room and board in exchange for managing the property. She doesn't really contribute anything valuable beyond basic maintenance." Time stopped. Victoria's hand flew to her mouth, her face going white. Edmund cleared his throat, suddenly fascinated by his shoes. Preston stared at the floor, mortified. And me? I stood there for exactly 10 seconds, processing what I'd just heard. My daughter, my Olivia, the child I'd carried for 9 months, the toddler I'd rocked through countless sleepless nights, the little girl I'd driven to ballet and soccer and debate club, the teenager I'd supported through her father's death, the young woman I'd put through Yale and Columbia, with money I'd earned building a company from nothing. She'd just told wealthy strangers that I was worthless help. In my own kitchen, in my own house, surrounded by luxury my 34 years of work had provided. Finally I spoke. My voice was calm, steady, but something fundamental had shifted in that room, and everyone felt it. "Interesting perspective, Olivia." "Mom, I didn't mean—" "No, you meant exactly what you said." I looked at Victoria and Edmund, these people my daughter was so desperate to impress. These strangers whose opinion mattered more to her than my dignity. "Enjoy the rest of your evening, folks. I have some calls to make." I walked upstairs to my bedroom, the bedroom in the house I'd owned for 35 years, closed the door, and sat down at my desk. Then I opened my laptop and started making the 4 most important calls of my life. 11:47 p.m. Call number 1, Margaret Chen, my financial advisor. "Margaret, it's Catherine Hayes. I know it's late, but I need you to pull some documents for me first thing Monday morning." Margaret had managed my accounts for 16 years. Knew something was wrong. "Catherine, what's going on? Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. I need you to prepare paperwork for selling my house. I want current market value, estimated closing costs, and I need recommendations for a real estate agent who can move quickly." Silence on the other end. Then, "Catherine, this is a major decision. Maybe you should sleep on." "I've been sleeping on this for years, Margaret. I'm wide awake now." Call number 2, Diana Foster, real estate agent. Diana picked up on the 4th ring, groggy. This better be good. "Diana, It's Catherine Hayes. Remember when you handled my commercial property sales? And you said if I ever wanted to sell my Pacific Heights house, you'd have buyers fighting over it in 48 hours? I heard rustling. Diana sitting up in bed. Catherine, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's finally right. Can you sell a $4.2 million house in 30 days in this market? With that location and your recent renovations, I could sell it in a week. But Catherine, your daughter lives there. Not for much longer. Call number 3, Simone Baptiste, restaurant owner. Simone answered on the first ring. She'd always been a night person. Catherine, what a surprise! How are you? Simone had worked for me at Hayes Marketing Solutions, junior account manager for 8 years before she left to follow her dream of opening a restaurant. I helped her with the business plan, connected her with investors, mentored her through the first difficult year. Simone, honey, remember when you said if I ever needed anything, you'd be there? Of course. You changed my life, Catherine. What do you need? How would you like to expand? Open a second location? I've been thinking about it, but the startup costs. What if I funded it? Full investment. You maintain creative control. I want to back someone who deserves it. I heard her crying on the other end. Catherine, why? Why would you do this? Because my daughter just taught me something important tonight. She taught me the difference between family and blood. And Simone, you've been more family to me than she's been in years. Call number 4. Jennifer Wu, attorney. Jennifer was still at her office. She practically lived there. Catherine Hayes, it's been too long. What can I do for you? I need to update my will, immediately. And I need to make sure it's absolutely airtight. What are we talking about? Complete disinheritance. I want to make sure my daughter receives exactly what she's contributed to my life. Nothing. Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. Then, tell me everything. I did. All of it. The renovations I'd funded. The photos she'd hidden. The dinner party, where she called me household management. The Ashford Clarks. Tonight's final insult. By the time I finished, Jennifer's voice was tight with anger. That entitled little, I'm sorry, professional. I should be professional. Don't be. She deserves every word. Here's what we're going to do. We'll create an ironclad will. We'll document your mental competence. We'll make it impossible for her to contest. And Catherine, we'll make sure she knows exactly why. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community, so we can bring more truthful stories for you. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my desk making lists. Real, concrete, actionable lists. People who deserved help. Simone Baptiste, restaurant expansion. Former employee, single mother, worked 3 jobs before I hired her. Marcus Chen, my late assistant's son, struggling artist who needed studio space. The Hayes Foundation for Women in Business scholarship program I'd always meant to fund properly. Pacific Community Kitchen, feeding program that needed a permanent home. Money allocation from $4.2 million house sale. Simone's restaurant expansion, $850,000. Marcus's art studio purchase, $180,000. Hayes Foundation endowment, $1.2 million. Pacific Community Kitchen building, $920,000. My retirement living expenses, $800,000. Emergency fund, $250,000. Timeline: Monday, meet with Margaret and Diana. Tuesday, list house privately. Wednesday, first showings, while Olivia is at work. By March 15th, close on house. March 20th, Olivia's engagement party planned at her house. Let her find out on closing day. The beautiful thing about justice, I realized as dawn broke over San Francisco, is that it works best when it's not revenge at all. I wasn't doing this to hurt Olivia. I was doing this to remember who I was before I became invisible. Before I let my daughter's shame shrink me into someone small and quiet, and grateful just to exist in the margins of her life. I was Catherine Hayes, I'd built a multi-million-dollar company from scratch. I'd raised a daughter alone after my husband died. I'd worked 20-hour days for decades and never complained. I wasn't just the housekeeper. I was the woman who owned the house. And it was time Olivia learned the difference. I heard Olivia's bedroom door open around 8. Heard her padding downstairs in her silk pajamas. No doubt expecting to find coffee already made and breakfast waiting. I was already dressed, already sitting at the kitchen table with fresh coffee and my newspaper. "Mom, about last night." She stopped when she saw my face. I didn't look up. "Made it 20 minutes ago." She poured herself a cup, added her expensive oat milk that cost $11 for half a gallon, sat down across from me like we were going to have some kind of heart-to-heart. "I think we should talk about what happened." "Nothing happened, Olivia." I turned the page of my newspaper. "You told the truth. I respect honesty." That threw her off. She was expecting tears, accusations, maybe some kind of emotional scene she could dismiss as Mom being dramatic. Instead, I folded my newspaper, finished my coffee, and stood up. "I have appointments today. Don't wait up for dinner." As I walked toward the door, I heard her call after me. "Mom, where are you going?" I didn't answer, because the truth was, I was going somewhere she'd never followed me. I was going back to myself. Margaret Chen's office overlooked the financial district, all glass and steel and quiet power. She looked up from her computer screen, her reading glasses perched on her nose. "Catherine, I pulled the numbers like you asked." She slid a folder across her desk. Inside was a property assessment that made my chest tight. Current market value, $4,185,000. I bought that house in 1989 for $400,000. Marcus and I had stretched ourselves thin for the down payment, eaten ramen for months to make it work. Now it was worth more than 10 times what we'd paid. That's based on recent comparables in Pacific Heights. With your renovations, especially the kitchen, you're in an excellent position. How quickly can we close? Cash offer, no contingencies? Margaret leaned back in her chair, studying me over her glasses. "Catherine, I have to ask. Does Olivia know about this?" Olivia lost the right to know when she called me worthless help in front of strangers. Margaret winced. She actually said that. Thursday night, in my kitchen, my house, that I own. Jesus, Catherine. Yeah, I opened my checkbook. So how quickly? With a cash buyer and no inspection contingencies, you could close in 14 days. Maybe less if everyone's motivated. Let's aim for March 14th. Margaret made a note. Any particular reason for that date? Olivia's engagement party is March 20th. I want her to find out 6 days before she's supposed to celebrate her future in a house she doesn't own. For the first time since I'd known her, Margaret Chen smiled like a woman who understood justice. "I'll make it happen." Diana Foster's office smelled like success and expensive coffee. She'd come up through hard work, started as an assistant, built herself into one of the city's top agents through pure determination. "Catherine Hayes." She stood, came around her desk to hug me. "I haven't seen you since we closed on your commercial properties. How have you been?" "Educational," I said. "Turns out you can raise a child for 34 years and still not know her at all." Diana's smile faded. "What happened?" I told her, all of it. The renovations I'd funded, the photos Olivia had hidden, the dinner party, where I was household management, the Ashford Clarks, Thursday night's final insult. By the time I finished, Diana's jaw was clenched tight enough to crack teeth. "That ungrateful—" She stopped herself. "Sorry, I'm supposed to be professional." "Don't be. She deserves every word." Diana pulled out her tablet. "So you want to sell my house out from under her?" I corrected. "The one I bought 35 years ago. The one I've been paying property taxes on, while she played Lady of the Manor." "Fair enough. Here's what we're looking at." She started pulling up comps. Pacific Heights, recently renovated, 3,200 square feet. In this market, we can get asking plus. I'm thinking we list at 4.2 and expect offers over. How fast can you move? How fast do you need? Close by March 14th. Diana's stylist stopped. That's 12 days from now. Can you do it? She looked at me for a long moment. Then she grinned. Catherine, for what that girl did to you, I'll have buyers lined up by tomorrow. One condition, though. What's that? Olivia can't know until closing day. Private listing, no MLS. I'll reach out to my premium clients directly. She was already scrolling through her contacts. Tech executives looking for family homes, finance people who want to impress. I've got a waiting list of people with liquid cash. When can you show it? Sunday work? 2 to 5? I thought about Olivia's schedule. Every Sunday like clockwork. 11 a.m. yoga in the marina, then brunch at some overpriced place in Hayes Valley, then shopping or gallery hopping until 6. Perfect. She won't be home. Let's sell this house and teach your daughter about consequences. I hadn't planned to see a lawyer beyond updating my will, but sitting in Diana's office, I realized I needed to protect myself completely. Make sure everything was bulletproof. Make sure Olivia couldn't claim I was incompetent, or suffering from dementia, or whatever excuse wealthy adult children used when their parents didn't play along with being erased. Jennifer Wu's law office was in a converted Victorian in Lower Pacific Heights. Appropriate, I thought, given what I was about to do. Mrs. Hayes, I've reviewed your situation thoroughly. Jennifer was 50-something, sharp as broken glass, came highly recommended by Margaret. Your daughter has no legal claim to the property. You're the sole owner, deed in your name only, since 1989. You can sell whenever you want. But I want to make sure I'm protected if she tries to challenge this. Smart. Angry adult children with expensive lawyers can make things complicated even when they have no legal standing. She pulled out some forms. I'd like you to undergo a brief cognitive assessment, just to document your mental clarity. Takes 30 minutes, creates bulletproof documentation. I took the assessment, passed easily. Jennifer made copies of everything, filed them with a neutral third party. One more thing, she said as I was leaving. Update your will today, before she gets any hint of what's happening. Already scheduled for tomorrow morning. Don't schedule, do, because the minute she finds out you sold the house, she's going to start thinking about your other assets. And Catherine, people who call their mothers worthless don't suddenly develop scruples around inheritance. Sunday morning, I watched from my bedroom window as Olivia left for yoga, wearing her $200 leggings and carrying her designer mat. She didn't look back. She never looked back. As soon as her car turned the corner, I texted Diana, "Coast is clear." Her response came immediately. On my way. First showy at 2. I spent the next 3 hours preparing. Not cleaning. The house was already immaculate. I kept it that way for years, but making sure nothing personal was visible, putting away the few photos I'd kept in my room. Hiding evidence that I still lived there. Making my own home suitable for strangers because my daughter had already made me a stranger in it. At 1:45, Diana's car pulled up. First buyers, Kevin and Lisa Park, both late 30s. He was a software engineer at Google. She'd just sold her startup for $40 million. They arrived in a Tesla that cost more than most people's houses. Mrs. Hayes, thank you so much for accommodating us on short notice, Lisa said, shaking my hand. Her grip was firm, confident. Diana mentioned you were looking for a quick sale. Family situation, I said simply. Watch them walk through my house. Watch Lisa's eyes light up at the kitchen. Kevin, look at this marble. Is this Calicotta? Looks like it. And these appliances, Wolf Range, Sub-Zero refrigerator. This is a serious cook's kitchen. Who did the renovation? Lisa asked me. I funded it. My daughter selected the finishes. Your daughter has exquisite taste. If she only knew. They moved through the house like people who'd already decided. Master bedroom, perfect layout. Second bedroom, home office for Kevin. Third bedroom, guest room, or maybe nursery eventually. They were planning a life here. A real life with love and laughter and respect. Everything I'd wanted this house to be. After 40 minutes, they huddled with Diana in the foyer. I stayed in the kitchen, giving them space. But I could hear them. Whatever it takes. And there are other showings scheduled today, Diana cautioned. you might face competition. We'll offer 4.3 million, cash, close in 10 days. 10 days would put closing on March 14th. Perfect. Second showing, Alexander Petrov, early 40s, hedge fund manager, recently divorced, looking for a showpiece to entertain clients and rebuild his image. He walked through the house with a calculator in his eyes, assessing square footage and return on investment. He brought his interior designer, a woman named Claudia, who kept saying things like, good bones, and easy to stage. The location is exceptional, Alexander said. Walking distance to the best restaurants, close to the financial district. This is exactly the kind of property that makes an impression. He wasn't looking for a home. He was looking for a status symbol, like Olivia had been. I'll offer 4.5 million, he told Diana. Cash, close in 8 days, no inspection needed. Diana's eyes met mine across the room. That was 300,000 more than the Parks. Life-changing money for most people. But I shook my head slightly. Because Alexander Petrov reminded me too much of my daughter. And I didn't want my house going to another person who valued appearances over authenticity. Third showing, the Martinez family. Gabriel and Rosa, both 40s, 3 teenage children, moving from Texas, where Gabriel ran a successful manufacturing company. Rosa was a physician. They'd been looking for the right San Francisco house for a year. Mom, this is so much better than the other places, their daughter Sophia said. 15 years old with braces and enthusiasm that reminded me of young Olivia, before ambition corrupted her. The Martinez family moved through the house differently than the others. They didn't calculate or assess. They imagined. The kitchen is big enough for all of us to cook together, Rosa said, smiling. I could set up my music studio in the basement, their son Miguel added. And there's actually a backyard. Sophia was already at the window. We haven't had a yard in forever. Gabriel found me in the living room while his family explored upstairs. Mrs. Hayes, may I ask why you're selling? Made up. Something about downsizing or relocating. But something about his kind eyes made me tell the truth. My daughter lives here. She's been ashamed of me for years. Thursday night, she told some wealthy strangers that I contribute nothing valuable to her life. So I decided to show her what valuable actually means. Gabriel was quiet for a long moment. I'm very sorry that happened to you. Don't be. I'm not. My mother, he said slowly, raised me and my 4 siblings alone after my father died. Worked as a seamstress, made our clothes by hand because we couldn't afford to buy them. When I was 16, I was embarrassed to bring friends over because our house was small and old and nothing like what my classmates had. Were you ashamed of her? Ken closed fastest too. And the Martinez family? They haven't submitted yet. But Catherine, you could be walking away from $300,000 or more. I don't care about maximizing profit, Diana. I care about who lives here next. You're leaving significant money on the table. I'm leaving this house to a family who'll love it. That's worth more than money to me. My phone buzzed. Email from Gabriel Martinez. Mrs. Hayes, after seeing your beautiful home and hearing your story, my family and I talked it over. We'd like to offer $4,150,000 cash with a 12-day close. We know it's not the highest offer you'll receive, but we promise to fill this house with love and laughter and respect. The things that make a house a home. We'd also be honored to keep any family photos you'd like to leave behind. Rosa believes every house has a history worth preserving. Respectfully, the Martinez family. I read it twice, then handed my phone to Diana. She read it, then looked at me. You're sure? You're walking away from $350,000? Completely sure. Closing date March 14th. I want it done before Olivia's engagement party. She's going to lose her mind. Good. Maybe it'll help her find her humanity. The next 10 days were the strangest of my life. Olivia went about her routine, completely oblivious. Up at 6 for her run, expensive coffee from the machine I'd bought, shower in the bathroom I'd renovated, outfits from the closet in the bedroom of the house I owned. She was pleasant enough, said good morning when she saw me, asked about my plans in that distant way people ask strangers in elevators. She had no idea that every day while she was at work, I was packing, systematically, carefully, removing every trace of myself from the house. I started with the photographs she'd hidden. The ones of Marcus and me at our wedding, young and hopeful and so in love. Olivia as a baby, as a toddler, at every stage of childhood. Our family Christmases, Thanksgivings, ordinary Tuesdays that had mattered. Hayes Marketing Solutions anniversary parties, the day we landed our first Fortune 500 client. Marcus and me, on the day we opened our Boston office, exhausted and exhilarated and proud. Every photo told the same story. I loved this girl with everything I had, and somewhere along the way, she decided that love was worthless. I packed them carefully, these memories. The Martinez family had said they'd keep some. I'd let them choose. But the most personal ones, Marcus and me, baby Olivia, our most precious moments, those were mine. Olivia posted on Instagram, counting down to the engagement party. Our home is going to look absolutely magical. #engagement party, #Pacific Heights, #celebrating love. Your house is stunning. Can't wait to see the photos. You two are couple goals. If they only knew that in 4 days, our home would belong to someone else. I met with Simone Baptiste at her restaurant. Chez Simone had become one of the city's favorites. Not trendy or flashy, just excellent food and genuine hospitality. $850,000 and the new location is mine? Simone still looked stunned, even though we discussed it twice already. The building, the equipment, 6 months of operating capital. You handle the rest. Catherine, I don't know how to thank you. Thank me by succeeding, by treating your employees the way I tried to treat mine, by building something that matters. I will, I promise. You've changed my life. Again. You earned it, honey. 15 years ago when you were my junior account manager, you showed up every single day and worked harder than anyone else. When you told me you wanted to open a restaurant, you didn't expect handouts. You created a business plan, found investors, made it work. You built Chez Simone into something special because you understood that value isn't about money. It's about integrity. That afternoon, I also met with Marcus Chen, my late assistant's son. Beautiful kid, 26. Struggling artist working 3 jobs to afford a studio apartment he could barely paint in. You're buying me a studio space? His voice cracked. Why? Because your mother was loyal to me for 18 years. Because when she got sick, she still came to work even when I told her to stay home. Because she believed in you, and I believe in her judgment. I don't know what to say. Say you'll create art that matters. Say you'll remember that someone believed in you. Say you'll help the next person who needs it. March 14th. The title company conference room smelled like new carpet and expensive coffee. I sat on one side of the long table, Margaret and Diana beside me. Across from us, the Martinez family, Gabriel, Rosa, all 3 kids dressed nicely for the occasion. This is such an important moment for our family, Rosa said. Our first home in San Francisco, and such a beautiful one. It's a good house, I told her. Fill it with love, that's all it needs. The title officer, an efficient woman named Patricia, laid out 53 pages of documents. Hayes, I'll need your signature on each page marked with a tab. All signed, over and over, each signature giving away the house I'd lived in for 35 years, each signature taking back my dignity. At 10:23 a.m., Patricia announced, wire transfer confirmed, $4,150,000 deposited to account ending in 7829. After fees and closing costs, I netted $4,087,000. $4 million. But more importantly, freedom. Gabriel stood, extended his hand. Mrs. Hayes, thank you. We'll honor this house's history. I know you will. That's why I chose you. As I left the title company, my phone buzzed. Text from Diana. You just committed the most elegant act of justice I've ever witnessed. Olivia Morrison sat in her office at Mercer Capital Partners, reviewing investment portfolios. Her phone was on silent. She hated interruptions during work hours, which is why she didn't see the text from our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, until her lunch break at 12:30. Olivia, there's a moving truck at your house. Is everything all right? She stared at the message, confused. A moving truck? She called me, straight to voicemail. She texted me. Mom, Mrs. Patterson said there's a moving truck. What's going on? No response. She called Preston. Can you run by the house? Something weird is happening. Can it wait? Please, just go check. Call me as soon as you know what's going on. Hamilton Brothers Moving Company. 4 crew members, 2 large trucks. I stood on the front steps of 1247 Pacific Heights Boulevard, watching them load my belongings. Mrs. Hayes, the crew chief, a big man named Jerome, checked his clipboard. We're here to pack and move everything from the master suite, your office, and the guest room with your personal items. Leave everything else untouched. That's correct. The neighbors were starting to notice. Mrs. Patterson watching from her window. The couple from 2 doors down watering their already wet lawn, trying not to stare. At 12:55, the Martinez family's car pulled up. They'd come to measure for furniture. Sophia waved at me excitedly from the back seat. And at 1:17, Preston's Porsche screeched to a halt in the driveway. He jumped out, still in his work clothes, face flushed from rushing over. Catherine, what's going on? He asked. I was directing the movers, calm as a summer morning. Just moving some things, Preston. Moving where? Olivia didn't mention anything about this. Olivia doesn't know. His face went pale. What do you mean she doesn't know? That's when Rosa approached, friendly and oblivious. Excuse me, I'm Rosa Martinez. We're the new owners. We just wanted to take some measurements before you move out. New owners? Preston's voice rose an octave. What are you talking about? Rosa looked confused, then turned to me. I'm sorry, I thought your daughter knew? Apparently, I said calmly, there's been a miscommunication. Preston grabbed his phone, hands shaking, called Olivia. I could hear her voice, tinny and confused, through the speaker. Preston, what's wrong? Your mom sold the house, his voice cracked. There are movers here, and some family from Texas who says they bought it. And Catherine, she sold the house. That's impossible. She can't just... I live there. Well, you better get here right now, because they're packing everything up. He hung up, turned to me, face stricken. Catherine, please, this has to be a mistake. We have 52 people coming. The caterers, the photographer, Not my problem, Preston. But we live here. You lived here as my guests. Guests I'm no longer hosting. Her car came around the corner too fast, tires squealing. She barely bothered to park properly, just abandoned it half on the lawn. Olivia jumped out, still in her work clothes, face red with panic and rage. The scene she found. Moving trucks 3/4 loaded, furniture being carried out. The Martinez children measuring windows. Preston standing helplessly on the sidewalk, neighbors gathered to watch. And me, standing in the doorway of the house I'd owned for 35 years, arms crossed, watching it all unfold. Mom, what the hell is going on? Didn't need to. I sold the house, Olivia. Closed this morning. The Martinez family are wonderful people. They're moving in tomorrow. She stared at me like I'd lost my mind. You can't just sell the house. I live here. You lived here, I corrected. Free of charge. Big difference. A small crowd had gathered now. Mrs. Patterson, the Chens from across the street, the young couple from next door. Everyone watching the Hayes family drama unfold in real time. Edmund and Victoria Ashford Clark would have been mortified. This is insane. Olivia's voice was getting higher, more desperate. You can't do this without telling me. Actually, I can do whatever I want with my property. Check the deed, Olivia. Catherine Elena Hayes, sole owner since June 1989. But the engagement party. Preston stepped forward. We have people flying in from Connecticut. We've paid deposits on everything. Sounds like you'll need a new venue. Mom, please. Olivia's voice cracked. Can we talk about this privately? No more private conversations, Olivia. These people deserve to know who they've been living next to. What's that supposed to mean? It means they should know that the successful investment professional in the expensive car told strangers that her mother contributes nothing valuable. That the woman who posts about family and gratitude on LinkedIn called the woman who raised her worthless help. The crowd murmured. Mrs. Patterson shook her head, disapproving. The Chens looked shocked. Olivia's face went from red to white. I didn't, that's not what Last Thursday, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. My daughter told Edmund and Victoria Ashford Clark that I'm basically just the housekeeper. Free room and board in exchange for managing the property. That I don't contribute anything valuable beyond basic maintenance. She said this in the kitchen. I paid $635,000 to renovate. In the house I've owned since before she was born. Jesus, Mr. Chen muttered. So I decided to show her what valuable really means. I turned to address the neighbors directly. This house, I bought it in 1989 for $400,000. Every mortgage payment for 35 years came from running Hayes Marketing Solutions, the company I built from scratch. Every renovation, every upgrade, my money, my work. Gabriel Martinez stepped forward. Mrs. Hayes is selling us this beautiful home for $4.15 million. We're incredibly grateful for the opportunity and honored to be chosen. Olivia looked like someone had punched her. Mom, that's my inheritance. Your inheritance? I actually laughed. Sweetheart, you threw away your inheritance the moment you decided to be ashamed of the woman who gave you everything. Preston took a step back, looked at Olivia like he was seeing her for the first time. You told them your mom was the housekeeper? Your own mother? It wasn't, I didn't mean it like. But Preston was already walking to his car. I can't. Olivia, I just can't. Preston, wait. He drove away without looking back. The movers kept working, methodically emptying the house of everything I'd decided to take. Olivia stood frozen, watching her life disintegrate in real time. Where am I supposed to go? She finally asked, voice small. That's not my problem anymore, Olivia. You're 34 years old, Columbia MBA, making $380,000 a year. Figure it out. Mom, I'm moving to a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment in the Richmond district. 1,500 square feet, bay windows, original hardwood floors, fireplace. It costs $3,000 a month, and it's all mine. Nobody there will ever call me worthless. By 3 o'clock, the movers had finished. The house stood empty, except for Olivia and the echoes. She walked through the rooms like a ghost. Living room where we used to watch old movies together. Kitchen where I'd taught her to make pancakes. Her father's favorite chair that I'd kept all these years, now gone. She found me supervising the last of the loading outside. Mom, her voice was broken. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please, there has to be some way to fix this. Fix what? The house is sold. Done. The engagement party's canceled. Your relationship with Preston, that's between you two. I meant us. Is there any way to fix us? I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. She was crying. When was the last time I'd seen Olivia cry? I don't know, I said honestly. That depends on whether you're sorry for what you said, or just sorry you're facing consequences. Both, she whispered. Is that allowed? It matters very much. The moving truck pulled away. Jerome called back, See you at the new place, Mrs. Hayes. Olivia's head snapped up. You already have a new place? 2 bedrooms. One for me, one for guests. Or maybe an office. I haven't decided yet. You're really doing this? I really am. I got in my Honda. The one I bought used because I didn't need status symbols to know my worth, and started the engine. Olivia stood in the driveway, watching me leave. Just like I'd watched her leave countless times over the past 5 years. Never looking back. Never saying thank you. Never acknowledging what I'd sacrificed. Now she knew how it felt. I drove away from 1247 Pacific Heights Boulevard for the last time, and I didn't look back, either. My apartment in the Richmond district had windows that faced west. Every evening, the sunset painted the walls, gold and amber and rose. I'd sit in my reading chair, the first piece of furniture I'd bought for myself in a decade, and watch the light change. It was the most peace I'd felt in years. Olivia, I learned later, checked into the Fairmont Hotel. $675 a night. She lasted 2 nights before her credit card was declined. I know because she called me. Mom, my card isn't working. Can you? I hung up. She called back immediately. I didn't answer. She texted, I just need a small loan. I'll pay you back. I blocked her number. Because here's what Olivia didn't understand yet. You don't get to call someone worthless and then ask them for money. Preston posted on Instagram at 9:13 p.m. Sometimes you discover things about people that change everything. Trust your instincts. Within an hour, the gossip sites had picked up the thread. Someone had screenshots of Olivia's deleted posts about our home. Someone else had found the property records showing I'd owned the house since 1989. By morning, the story was everywhere. Bethany Ashford Clark canceled her engagement party due to family issues. Sources say groom discovered disturbing information about bride's character. Full story developing. One of Olivia's colleagues commented, "Dude, what happened?" The internet loves a mystery, and wealthy people's public failures even more. Victoria Ashford Clark called me 3 days after the house sale. I almost didn't answer. "Mrs. Hayes, this is Victoria, Preston's mother." "Mrs. Ashford Clark, how are you?" "I'm calling to apologize. Edmund and I had no idea about the true situation that night. If we'd known that was your house, that you owned it, that you'd funded everything, we never would have stood there silent while Olivia said those things." "You didn't say them, she did." "No, but we didn't speak up, and I've been a mother long enough to know that silence can be complicity. I also want you to know that I told Preston he needed to end the engagement." "That surprised me. You told him to?" "I raised my son to value integrity and respect. What Olivia did to you, how she treated you, if she could do that to her own mother, she'd eventually do it to him. That kind of entitled cruelty doesn't stay contained. What you did wasn't revenge. It was justice. Mrs. Hayes, I also want you to know that I admire what you did. Building a successful company, raising a daughter alone, sacrificing everything for her education and opportunities. You deserved respect. You deserved gratitude. Instead, you got betrayal. What you did wasn't revenge. It was justice. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment and cried. Not from sadness, from relief. Someone understood. Someone saw what I'd done not as cruelty, but as self-respect. 3 weeks after selling the house, I was having coffee at a neighborhood cafe when Olivia walked in. She looked terrible. The expensive clothes were gone, replaced by jeans and a simple sweater. She'd lost weight. Dark circles under her eyes spoke of sleepless nights and hard lessons. She saw me, froze, then slowly approached my table. "Mom, I don't know if you'll want to talk to me, but I've been trying to find you for days." "I haven't been hiding. Can I sit?" I gestured to the empty chair. Watched my daughter sit down across from me, this diminished version of the polished professional who'd called me worthless. "I lost my job," she said quietly. "Mercer Capital Partners let me go. They said the negative publicity was affecting client relationships. The story went viral, and 3 major clients specifically requested I not work on their accounts. I didn't say anything. I'm living in a studio in the Tenderloin, 800 square feet. It's smaller than the bedroom I had in your house, in the house you owned, that I pretended was mine. Still, I waited. His parents told him to. They said if I could treat you that way, I'd eventually treat him the same. They were probably right. She looked up, met my eyes. I've been doing a lot of thinking about who I became, about what I lost. What did you lose, Olivia? Everything that mattered. You, my integrity, my self-respect, my sense of who I actually am under all the performance and pretension. And what have you learned? That I spent 5 years trying to become someone I thought would be impressive. And in the process, I became someone I don't even like. That I was so afraid of being associated with working-class roots that I erased the most important person in my life. That expensive things don't make you valuable. What you do for others does. She was crying now, quiet tears running down her face. I'm so sorry, Mom. Not because I got pot, not because I'm facing consequences. I'm sorry because I hurt you. Because I was cruel to the one person who loved me unconditionally. Because I forgot that you're the reason I had opportunities in the first place. I looked at my daughter, this broken version of the girl who used to help me frost cakes. What do you want from me, Olivia? A chance. Just a chance to prove I can be better. To earn back your respect, even if I never earn back your trust. I was quiet for a long time. Then I said, you want to earn it? Really earn it? Yes. There's a community kitchen in the Mission, Pacific Community Kitchen. I bought them a permanent building with some of the money from the house sale. They feed people who are struggling, people who remind me of where I came from. Okay. Every Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., you volunteer there. Serve food, wash dishes, clean, whatever they need. No pay. You're donating your time. For how long? Until I say stop. Could be 6 months, could be 6 years. You don't get to decide when you've paid your debt. And if I do this? If you do this with real humility, without complaining, without posting about it on social media for credit, maybe we rebuild something. Maybe I let you back into my life. Maybe eventually you earn the right to be called my daughter again instead of just Olivia. I never stopped thinking of you as my mother. But you stopped treating me like one. This is your chance to remember who you are. Not O. Alexandra Hayes, investment professional. Olivia Catherine Hayes, Marcus and Catherine's daughter. She nodded, crying harder now. When do I start? Next Sunday, 9 a.m. sharp. Wear clothes you don't mind ruining. I'll be there. We'll see. 6 months later, the back room of Pacific Community Kitchen was set up for Sunday dinner. One long table, mismatched chairs, family-style serving bowls full of food I'd spent all day making. Pot roast, garlic mashed potatoes, roasted vegetables, fresh bread, apple pie for dessert. Real food made with love. Simone sat at one end of the table with her 2 kids. They called me Aunt Catherine now. Marcus Chen and his girlfriend, who just sold his first major piece of art. The staff from Pacific Community Kitchen. People who'd become my friends for months of volunteering alongside them. And at the far end of the table, quiet but present, Olivia. 6 months of Sundays had changed her. She'd lost the artifice that had come from trying too hard to impress people who didn't matter. Her hands were rough from dishwashing and food prep. She'd learned to show up on time, work hard, and listen. More importantly, she'd learned to see people, really see them. The single mothers struggling to feed their kids. The elderly folks living on fixed incomes. The people who needed help and deserved dignity. She'd learned that everyone has a story, and sometimes the most valuable thing you can do is bear witness to it. Simone stood first, raising her water glass. To Catherine, who gave me a chance when nobody else would, who funded my dream and helped me expand Chez Simone into something I never imagined possible. Who showed me that success isn't about how much you have, but how much you give. To Catherine, everyone echoed. To Catherine. who honored my mother's memory by believing in me, who bought me a studio space when I was painting in my car, who taught me that art matters, and so do the people who create it. To Catherine. Maria, the kitchen director, stood last, tears already falling. To Catherine, who bought this building so we could feed people with dignity instead of charity. Who volunteers here every week, even though she doesn't have to. Who proves every day that wealth is about what you share, not what you keep. To Catherine. Everyone looked at Olivia. She stood slowly, hands shaking. To Mom. First time she'd called me that in 6 months, I told her she had to earn it back. Who I betrayed, who I took for granted. Who I called worthless when she was the most valuable person in my life. Her voice broke. I'm sorry it took losing everything to remember what matters. I'm sorry I had to hurt you to learn how to be human again. Thank you for giving me a chance to become someone you might be proud of someday. I stood, walked around the table, stopped in front of my daughter. Long pause, long enough for her to wonder if I'd forgive her. Then I pulled her into a hug. Welcome home, baby. Olivia sobbed, really sobbed. 6 months of shame and hard work and slowly rebuilding herself, all coming out in one moment. I don't deserve this. Nobody deserves grace, sweetheart. That's what makes it grace. But you're earning it. Day by day, dish by dish. We ate together, passing bowls, telling stories, laughing. Olivia was quiet mostly, listening, but she was present, really present. Not checking her phone, not performing for anyone, just there. At one point, Simone's youngest asked her, Miss Olivia, do you know how to make mashed potatoes? Actually, your Aunt Catherine taught me last month. I can show you if you want. Olivia looked at me. I nodded. I'd like that, thank you. But it meant everything. After everyone left, just Olivia and me, washing dishes side by side, like we used to when she was small. Mom, can I ask you something? What, honey? That night when I said you contributed nothing valuable, did you already know you were going to sell the house? I smiled, handed her a plate to dry. No, baby. I decided that night. Made 4 phone calls, changed everything. You dismantled my entire life in 24 hours. No, sweetheart. I dismantled the fake life you were performing. Your real life is just beginning. We washed dishes in comfortable silence. Mother and daughter, starting over. 1 year after selling the house, Pacific Community Kitchen celebrated its anniversary with a block party. The whole neighborhood came. Music, food, kids running around with face paint and ice cream. Olivia was there with her new job. She'd found work at a nonprofit that provided microloans to women entrepreneurs. The pay was a third of what Mercer Capital Partners had given her. She said she'd never been happier. Mom, she said, finding me by the dessert table, I have something for you. She handed me an envelope. Inside, a check for $50,000. What's this? Partial payment for the renovations you funded. I've been saving every month. It'll take me years to pay back $635,000, but I'm going to do it. Olivia, I know, but I owe you, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving that I understand what you gave me, what you sacrificed, what you lost because of my selfishness and shame. I hugged her. My girl. My daughter. Still learning, still growing, still worth loving. That night, I sat in my Richmond district apartment, watching the sunset paint the walls gold. I'd sold a $4 million house and moved into a rental. I'd given away most of my money to help people who needed it. I'd lost the daughter I thought I knew, and found the one I'd always hoped she'd become. Was it worth it? Every single second. Because here's what I learned. You can't make people value you. You can only value yourself enough to walk away when they don't. You can't force respect. You can only demand it by respecting yourself first. You can't change the past. You can only decide what you're willing to accept in the future. I spent 64 years being useful to other people, being the person they needed me to be, shrinking myself to fit their comfort. Now I was just being Catherine. And Catherine was enough. So if you're listening to this, and someone has made you feel small in a room you built with your own hands, hear me clearly. You don't have to wait for permission to matter. You don't have to earn the right to be treated with dignity. You don't have to accept crumbs from people who owe you everything. Stand up, walk away, build something new. You were never meant to be invisible in your own story. You're the author of your own life, and it's never, ever too late to write a better ending. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you.